All right, well, good morning. Today is our second BZ principle of the school year, and we're going through the book, The Leadership Challenge, this year. Last month, we just identified and defined just basic leadership. And what I want to do today is talk about your priorities and your values, because I think those are important. So before we start, one of the things I like to ask when we go through this conversation is for you to think of somebody in your life that has been a leader to you. Maybe a parent, a youth pastor, a coach, a mentor. And then I want you to take just a few seconds in your brain to think of those characteristics that made him or her a leader in your mind. So do that real quick. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Think of somebody that you've identified as a leader, and then somebody, what made them a leader to you. So let me give you a few seconds, and then we'll come right back, and we'll continue. So think about that. Couple people came to my mind, and one of the things that when I identified these people, consistency was one, right? I think one of the things that I saw from this individual, like they were consistent. You knew what was going to happen. You knew what they were going to do. You knew what they stood for. Reliability was another one. And then loyalty. So those are the kind of things that came to my mind of those two leaders that I was thinking of. So the big idea today is this: your values and your priorities. But the big idea is your values and your priorities are absolutes. So that's number one. It's a two-phase big idea. So your values and your priorities are your absolutes. These are things that don't waver. These are things that don't change. This is not like, hey, I like cinnamon rolls today and tomorrow I don't. These things are absolute. And the second part of that big idea is they're your voice. So as a leader, one of the things that you have to do, and it doesn't matter if you're the top leader or if you're a leader leading through the trenches and you're just doing your job, you've got to know who you are and what you stand for. Because if you don't, it's going to be very easy for other people to push you around. And I struggled with that when I was first told that I was a leader, which was somewhere probably in high school. And then I got to college and be a leader. And then I'm like, I don't really know what I stand for. So what happened was some days I would be this loving leader. Other days I'd be this dictatorial leader. Other days I would be this apathetic leader. Other days I would be really organized. And the problem with that is when you're trying to lead people or you're trying to influence people, remember, leadership is stewardship, influence, and service. So when I'm trying to influence and serve other people, but I change every day, that's one of the scariest things that I could do for people. And I apply that to all areas of my life, not just in leadership over campus experience, but my leadership in my family, my leadership in my church, my leadership in the community. If I am not consistent, it doesn't mean I don't have a bad day, but people need to know who I am. People need to see how I make decisions. So what we want to do today is we want to look at your values and your priorities, and we want to, number one, realize that they're absolutes. These are things that you should not waver on. And also, they're your voice. So let's just jump right in and look at values. So I define values this way. Your values are your anchor. They're your anchor. They're going to focus your priorities. So think about values. These are things, these characteristics that you're going to say, this is who I am no matter what. This is who I am when things are good. This is who I am when things are meh. And this is who I am when things are really, really bad. You need to know that, and those are your values. So how do you identify your values? I'm going to make this as simple as possible. All these things are on the website, so you can go back and see these things. But there are, there are 4 things that you have to do mindset-wise when you're developing your values or identifying them. You got to take time. This is not a quick, hey, I'm going to do this in 5 minutes and be done. This is not a 1 week thing. This is probably a multiple week praying through it, thinking through it. It takes time. It takes honesty. So when you're identifying your values, say that you want to have your value as integrity, which is a good one. But say that that is one of your values. You don't just say, okay, today I'm going to have integrity as a value. It's like you've got to have honesty to be like, what is it going to require for me to be a person of integrity? What does it mean? How am I going to do that? How am I going to do that when my friends are not doing that? So it takes time, honesty, humility. The reason why I put humility in there for a mindset, it doesn't matter what other people's values are. You have to define the values that God has laid on your heart. So those will be different. Our values might be the same in some areas. In some other areas, some of you might have a value that I don't have. It doesn't make you better than me. It doesn't make me better than you. It just means you have to have humility to understand if you look at the body of Christ, we're all different. So time, honesty, humility, and then teachability. So the reason why I put teachability in there, the first time you share your values with somebody you trust, you want them to push back and say, do you really mean that? And you need to be teachable enough because sometimes, let's be honest, we pick things that sound good, right? Because we want to look good. But I want you to pick values that will be consistent and that you will be able to use and that will make you not good, but it will keep you doing the right thing. All right, so how do you identify your values? Here, I put down 6 steps. Number 1, you identify the values you admire and desire. So that's why I had you start with thinking about who is that leader that you admire. What values did they have? What values do you admire? I admire integrity and empathy. Those are my first 2. So the idea of that is, why do I do that? So I'm identifying the values that I admire. I'm reviewing this list. So the first time I did it, I had a list of 25. Why can you not have 25 values? Anybody want to shout that out? Why should you not have 25 values? Is it even going to be possible for you to remember those 25 values? No. So don't have a value. Don't say it's a value if you can't do it. So I think your values should be somewhere between 3 and 5. This is 3 and 5 things that I know. This is who I am. This is how I make decisions. So I review that list. So step number 2, after I identify, I'm reviewing that list and I'm looking for similarities and I'm going, how do I add? How do I bring things together? How do I maybe eliminate something? What are the ones that I really want to be about me? So that's number 2. Number 3, I define those values. I think it's important that you describe them. You got to define them because you got to know what they mean, because you can't tell them to other people if you don't know what they mean. You got to define them. The next one, you got to rank them. So for me, my values are integrity, empathy, work ethic, loyalty, and innovation. Those are mine. Integrity, I ranked it as number 1 because who cares how much I'm loyal if I don't have integrity? Who cares how creative I am if I don't have integrity? So integrity, empathy. I put empathy right after integrity, even over work ethic, because if I don't care for people, who cares the job that I do, right? If I don't care for my kids and my wife and the people in our church, who cares that I might be there in the morning doing things before everybody else gets to church, have the sound system on and everything? Who cares if I'm not caring for people? So you've got to rank your values. Then you got to develop an elevator speech. Yeah, anybody never heard of the phrase elevator speech? It's like when you get into an elevator, the doors close and you're going to the 5th floor. You don't have very long in that elevator, right? It's the ability that if somebody were to look at you and go, hey, tell me about yourself. And it's like, not that you're going to go, well, my values are. No, but you at least can give those very quickly. That's what an elevator speech is. So for me, when I think of integrity, I put down this for my elevator speech: do what's right. When I put down empathy, I put give a care. So if you were to ask me, why do you have empathy as a value? It's because I want to care for other people. Work ethic, I put BZ. Loyalty, I put commitment, and I put Romans 12:10 beside that. In innovation and creativity, I said get 1% better. So those are my values, and that's my elevator speech. And then the last one, step 6, share your values with someone you trust. So yeah, The first time I did this, I sat down and I looked at Danielle, my wife, and I said, hey, here's what I'm thinking I really think my values are, and I want to make sure that I hold to these. And she listened to the list. There was about 8 to 9, and she's like, there's several on there. I don't even know what they are, so why are you trying to do that? And she really helped me hone this down to 5. And it was that teachability. Go back to that mindset. So your values. Your values are there for you to identify those things that you are unwilling to compromise on, unwilling to slide on. So for me, when it comes to something in the office and there's a decision that has to be made and I could bend the truth a little bit, I got to remind myself that integrity is that top value. And then if something comes in and somebody interrupts my office hour, which some of you have done, I got to remind myself that empathy is my second, right? Because I'm so caught up in my work, I'm like, I'm being a great worker. Integrity and empathy take priority over that. So integrity, empathy, work ethic, loyalty, and innovation. So that's your values. Your values have got to come first. If your values don't come, then your priorities can't be there. So looking now at your priorities, your priorities are this. Your priorities focus your time, talent, and treasure. So think about that. Your priorities, what those are, those big bucket things, if you want to use Peter Drucker, what are those big rocks that you're going to put in your jar? What are those things that you have to do? They focus your time, your talent, and your treasure. And then your priorities highlight and confirm your values. So I'll give you mine here in a second. So when you're trying to identify priorities, you have to have courage and conviction. We live in a world right now where people want you to just get along with everybody. If I disagree with you and I don't affirm you, I must be against you. Isn't that true? But the idea of this, you have to have courage and conviction to hold to your priorities. So my priorities are drastically different than other people, and that's okay. So to identify your priorities, you do these 5 steps or 4 steps. Number 1, you start with the end in mind. Anybody ever hear of a eulogy? So when I went to a group out in Washington State with a friend, his name is Wade Harris, actually, Emma's dad. I went out to there, and we were going to a conference called Building Champions. And they made us write our eulogy. And I remember looking at Wade going, this is like depressing. But the reason why they did that was it's like start with the end in mind. They're like, who are those people that at the end of your life you want them to remember you? And that was a great place to start. So I don't think you need to think about your death today. But I do think you need to start with the end in mind, going, okay, at the end of my life, what things are really going to matter, right? Is it going to matter that you attended an alt night? No. Is it going to matter that you bought coffee from Renova? No. Is it going to matter that you got a B on a test? No. You see what I'm saying? Those things aren't going to matter. For me, is it going to matter how I respected and loved Danielle? Yeah. So, number 1, start with the end in mind. Number 2, identify who you want to be remembered by and for what. Like, why do I want to be remembered? Who do I want to be remembered by and for what reasons? Then you rank those, and then you share them with somebody else. You'll notice the last step in all of this is talk to somebody else. This is not being done in a vacuum. So my priorities are this, and you're probably going to be shocked by a couple of them. Not by the first one, God. Number 1, my faith is my priority. I had a friend talk to me yesterday where his son came to him and his wife and said, I just want to be first one time in your life. And my friend said, well, you mean over God? And he's like, absolutely. And my friend said, well, sorry, son, your mom is not even over that in me. And it was real conviction. I heard that, knowing that I was going to talk about this today, is that if you say that God is your number 1 priority, then God needs to be your number 1 priority. I think we say that as Christians, and then we make family's my second. I say God's my priority, but then family is more important than God. So number 1 is God. Number 2 is family. Number 3 is friends. Number 4 is church. Cedarville doesn't even come into the list till number 5, work. And then community is number 6. So in making decisions, if Danielle is to call and to say, hey, I need your help, well, y'all number 5, she's number 2, y'all gonna lose, all right? But understanding that and explaining that to the team and explaining that and living that consistently, it doesn't shock you when I'm like, hey, I'm hanging out with family today. Or, hey, I've got this church meeting. I had a church meeting, a personnel committee that went 4 to 6:30. First of all, you should never have that long of a meeting in a church. But I had that, and that meant on Wednesday I was gone at 3:30 because church is higher than Cedarville. I make my decisions that way, but I also make my decisions going, okay, if I say God's number 1, what's my first value? Because your priorities focus or highlight your values. My first value is integrity. Is God really my priority? And I have to remind myself that every single morning when I get up and go, okay, I don't really want to spend time in the Word of God right now. I'm way too busy. I got to get to my work. I got to get to other things. And I'm like, wait. If my value is integrity, and God is my number 1 priority, I have to live that way. This is a habitual thing that you're trying to do in helping with your priorities and your values. So how do you do this? How do you actually take it from, hey, we've just talked about how you identify your values, how you identify your priorities. How do you do this? Well, number 1, you got to know and embrace your values and priorities. You got to do it. Don't wait until don't say, well, I'm in college now, I don't need to know my values. I have seen too many college students, I have seen too many young people, because they have not identified their values, make stupid decisions. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people, it just means they made really stupid decisions. Identify your values now, live that way, fail in those now, so that habit, when you become a parent, when you become a church member, when you become an employee, you've got those ingrained in your brain, and they're like absolutes. They're unshakable. They won't move. Seek to know the values. Seek to know the values and priorities of others. I think that's really important. So I need to know the values and priorities of Evan, of Weston, of Chrissy, of April, of Sydney. It's important that I know that. It's important that when I meet with you, that you share, hey, this is a priority of mine. I know that schools should be a higher priority than work. I'm telling you that all the time. You're paying a lot of money to go to school here. You're not getting paid a lot of money, okay? So the whole idea of that is know your priorities. So commitment. Here's what I want you to do. Here's what I want you to do in the next month, if you're willing to do it. Identify your values and your priorities. And then after you've done that, you need to review them every day for the first 30 days. So like 5 minutes. Like I can go through my values: integrity, empathy, work ethic, loyalty, innovation. What are my priorities? It's God, it's family, it's friends, it's my church, it's my work, and then it's my community. I'm going through that, taking 5 to 10 minutes a day for those first 30 days, because what happens in 30 days? Habits are formed. That's why we did the personal assessment once a week up and through the month of September. Why? Because we wanted it to be habitual in your mind. We wanted you to know what we stood for. Your values and your priorities. You need to know what you stand for. So for the first 30 days, do it every day. Then after that, do it once a week for 10 minutes. So that's where I am right now. I've had these for several years after that trip to out to Oregon, Washington State. So every week on a Sunday night before I go to bed, I'm like, all right, what are my values? What are my priorities? And how am I going to make sure that I keep them in line this week at work, at church, in my family? Because I want to be reminded of those. It's kind of like your financial planning. You have probably not saved money for retirement yet. That's okay. My son just got his first job. He has the opportunity to pay into a retirement. He's like, Dad, how much should I do? And I'm like, I do the full amount, man. Get as much as you can out. Don't leave free money on the table. He's like, I'm 18 years old. Why are you making me save for when I'm 60-some years old? Because you don't want to wait till you're 55 to start saving. Same thing with your values and priorities. Don't wait till you're out of college to make this a priority. Because what the world needs and demands from us is people that are convictional and courageous. And that's what your values and your priorities can do. So remember this, your values and your priorities are your absolutes, and they're your personal voice. I want to hear your voice. The world needs to hear your voice, but they need your values and your priorities to be absolute.